So my father built a house in Jamaica. Beautiful house. Absolutely stunning house. I'll attach a picture. And it was his pride and joy. It was his life's work. He went over in the 70s when I was quite young, and he was literally away from us for about 6 months whilst he was building this house, whilst we were still children, in preparation for him and my mum to actually retire there. And they did. They retired to this lovely house in Jamaica. 6 bedrooms in an acre of land. He planted every single tree. I mean, it was a bare patch of earth when they bought it, and it was countryside when they bought it. It was out in the country. There was nothing there. There was just the sticks, dirt track road, the sticks. Now, the town grew up around that house. So Junction didn't exist as Junction is today in Jamaica when my parents built their house. It was just this nothing place. But Junction itself grew up around my parents' house, and suddenly they went from living in this lovely rural idyll to being basically in the centre of a town, a 1 acre piece of land with a beautiful 6 bedroom house in it, in the middle of a town. So their house got rezoned as to being commercial property back, I don't know when. It happened a few years after they moved there. They were there for about 20 years. So, you know, at some point it got rezoned, and suddenly their lovely little house and their mansion and their acreage suddenly became commercial property. Now, I heard a couple of days ago from family members that my dad's house has been demolished. So the man that bought it from my mum, who pressured my mum into selling it to him and got it for a knockdown price. They did not get what the house was worth. They got about a third of the value of the property out of this man, because my mum was scared and just didn't wait for me to get there and help her. So she panicked and sold it far too cheap. But the man led her to believe that he was buying the house because he loved the house, and because it was near the town, because it was near his supermarkets. He owns the supermarkets in Jamaica, so it was near his work and it was going to be convenient for him. So he was buying this house to live in it and make a home out of it. No, he wasn't. Turns out that he also owned the land behind the property. He owned the land over to the side of the property up to the main road, and his intention the whole time was to demolish Dad's house and do something commercial with the property. Now, I get that. Don't get me wrong. I understand the urge to do that. He's a businessman. It's a business type decision to make. I get it. But he did not do it in good faith. He was not honest about it up front. He didn't give my mum the truth, because if he'd have told her that his intention was to buy the house to knock it down, she wouldn't have sold it to him, because it would break my dad's heart. And if I'm absolutely frank with you, I am really grateful that my dad's not here anymore, because this would have just destroyed him. He was already incredibly angry with my mum for making him come back to England in the first place. He was so angry with her about selling his house. And that's how he put it. She sold my house. She sold my house. He was so distressed about coming back to England in the first place because he didn't want to. He wanted to end his life in Jamaica. He did not want to come back to England at all for any reason. So none of this was what he wanted. So in the end, I am kind of grateful that Dad's not here anymore and that he isn't going to see this. I am so annoyed, so annoyed. I'm annoyed on behalf of my dad, and he's not even here. The last time I went to Jamaica, I didn't even go and look at the house because it hurt me so much just to see it. And now I'm regretting not having just walked down the little hill and looked at the property for the last time, because it looks like right after we left Jamaica to come back after doing all the dad's grave and everything, that's when the house was demolished. Apparently it's in the last couple of weeks, it has just been razed to the ground. There is nothing left. What's even more heartbreaking for me is that because they were coming back to England and because it was such a rush, my mum and dad didn't bring back their belongings. So that house was sold with every stick of furniture in it and most of my mum and dad's personal belongings. So all of mum's knickknacks and ornaments that I remember as a child were left in that house. All of dad's tools, so a lifetime's worth collection of his tools, hammers, drills, saws, all the things that he'd collected over the years, because my dad was a real handyman and loved making things. All of that stuff was still in that house, because that man had led my parents to believe he was going to turn it into his home. So they left him all of their things, because they thought he was going to look after it. He was going to take care of the place. Turns out that they also left him their dogs, because they had like a little pack of dogs that lived there that took care of the property. You couldn't go on that property past them dogs without being introduced to them dogs. So it was security for the house. And they'd left him the dogs. The dogs were killed within days of the man taking possession of the house. Apparently the dogs were all killed. They were all poisoned by the man who bought the house. Mum and dad would have rehomed all of those dogs to other people who would have taken them if they'd known that that was what this man was going to do. My dad loved those dogs. There was 6 of them. My dad absolutely adored those dogs. He was heartbroken enough leaving them behind, but now to find out that they also have killed my dad's dogs, that's bad. But everything that my parents left in that house, the pictures, the ornaments, the memories, the furniture, everything they left has also been destroyed, because this man was so dishonest about what he was going to do with the house before. I can't. I'm struggling with this one. I really am. I knew it was a mistake selling that house to that man. I did not like him the minute I met him. I did not like him because he sent his girlfriend. The man's married, but apparently he has girlfriends, baby mamas left, right and centre. And he sent one of these girlfriends down to the house to take an inventory of the property and what was being left behind. And when this woman turned up to the house and came in, she said, "Oh, I'm here to write a list of everything that's being left." And I just said to her, "No, you're not doing that. That's distressing for my mum and my dad. They're leaving what they're leaving. It's going to be here when they walk out the door. You don't need to check nothing until they have left. And you can then come in and do that." "Oh, no, I'm here to make sure that they don't steal anything." Excuse me? Steal? It's their belongings. It's not included in the sale. They're leaving it because they don't want to take it back to England with them. They're leaving it because they haven't got the time to pack up and ship this stuff back to the UK. They're not leaving it as a requirement. They're leaving it as a courtesy. You're not coming into my mum and dad's house to upset my mum and dad and to treat them like they're stealing their own belongings. So I kicked her out. Told her to get her skanky ass out of my mum and dad's house and to take her whore self back up the street and to do one. I get this phone call from him afterwards saying, "How dare you talk to my girlfriend like that?" And I just said, "Listen, mate, how dare you send your tramp down here to harass my parents? You want to pull out the sale? Fucking do it then. You don't deserve this house anyway." So, yeah, I don't have a lot of time or respect for him. And I knew he was a bad man from that interaction on its own. But now to find out that apparently he didn't even do this. He has sold the whole property, all of it, to some Chinese development corporation, and they're the ones that have demolished the entire house. I knew it was a mistake. There was no need to sell that house. My intention, and I'd already organised it all, was for me to move to Jamaica, to move in with my mum and my dad, to support my mum in my dad's care, and to allow him to stay in his home until the end, which is what he wanted. But my brother pressured my mum into accepting the first offer that came her way, which just happened to be Mr. Supermarket Man. And here we are. And now a house that my dad worked so hard and was so proud of is gone. It hurts my heart. Really hurts my heart. I'm so angry. I'm angry at my brother, and I can't even be angry at him because he's dead. But I'm angry at him because if it hadn't been for him pressuring mum in the first place, she might have waited until I got there. I'm angry at my mum because she did something that my dad didn't want to do. I genuinely believe he'd have lived longer if he'd have stayed in Jamaica with some support. And I'd organised it. I was ready to give up my home, my life, and trip out there, put my house into storage and rent it out, and trip out there to help her support dad to the end. That was the plan. That was what I was going to do. But I got there to find out that she'd already signed paperwork and accepted this man's offer. And to make it even worse, to make this cherry land on the top of this cake, I find out from her recently that she has accidentally put the deeds to another piece of land that was next to their house in Jamaica in with the deeds for the house and the 1 acre of land. She didn't get any money for that one at all. She accidentally left it in the bundle of paperwork. That piece of land was not intended to be sold with the house and the land that the house stood on. So that man got an extra acre of land for free, which he has now probably sold on with the acre and the house to the Chinese. And there's nothing I can do about it. And I did try. When we were in Jamaica, I went looking for him to try and find out what had happened and if he had that paperwork to get it back. And he didn't return my calls. I went into his supermarket and I passed messages and I phoned and nothing, absolutely nothing. So he knew exactly what he was doing. You see? Wicked man. Very wicked man. Anyway, rant over. Thanks for listening.